consider this a professional courtesy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Welcome to Monday, everyone. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Last week turned into a complete disaster. Well, not a disaster. That's not fair. It was a balance of things, everything that could go wrong, going wrong, and being extremely busy. Lots and lots of listing appointments, kind of encouraging. So from the standpoint of just being busy, super busy, which is interesting. Given what we've talked about. Now, granted, my ground truth isn't necessarily everywhere's ground truth, but boy, am I seeing a lot more interest on the part of folks who are looking to move. Same kind of makeup of the folks who want to move. I'm not seeing a lot of folks who are moving from one place in my area to another place in my area. And I'm not even really seeing folks moving from my area to another place in the same state. Most everybody's looking to get out of the state. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. Now, before we get too far into it, let me just remind everyone how to get in contact with me. The best way is through the website. Head on over to therebelbroker.com. From there, you can send along any ideas, suggestions, observations, or questions that you might have. Just click the contact button in the menu bar to get that going. And of course, there is the option to join the Rebel Underground. You can simply text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. That's text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222, and then you will get on the Rebel Underground mail list. And you'll get access to some exclusive content and other wonderful things. And of course, there's also the support the show option. Now, to do that, you go again to therebelbroker.com, click the big red button at the top of the page titled Take the Survey to Support the Show. And two wonderful things will happen when you do that. One, you'll be presented with a really short, we're talking 5 or 6 question demographic style survey. And then once you're done, you have supported the show and you've helped the show grow. Thank you very much for doing that. And then also you've entered yourself into the drawing for the $50 Amazon gift card that we tend to give out about every month. Now, as you may notice, if you're looking at your calendar, we are at the beginning of February. So at the end of this week, we are going to be drawing another $50 Amazon gift card winner, and it could be you. All you have to do is go to therebelbroker.com, click the big red button at the top of the page, and again, you're in and you've helped me. So head on over if you haven't already to get yourself into the running for that $50 Amazon gift card. We've been doing this for a while now. Congrats to all the folks who've won $50 Amazon gift cards over the last year. Have we been doing this a year? I almost think we have. And good luck to those of you who have yet to win. But also keep in mind, this isn't a month-to-month thing. In other words, if you submitted your contact info 9 months ago, through the survey, if you did me the favor 9 months ago, you're still in there. So every time I pull a name out, it's from the total mass of people who have taken the survey over the course of the last year. The only other thing I'd mention, make sure you use the same email address both times you're asked. That is how you will win your $50 Amazon gift card. If I reach out to you via the email address you provide, and I don't hear from you within 48 hours, I give it to the next person. So please make sure that it's an email address that you check at least that frequently. I went for a super long time without anyone losing out, but I did have one and I still never heard from the person at the end of the email address. So make sure you don't lose the $50, and you use a email address that we can actually find you at. Okay, today's show is a little bit less about news stories. It's another revisiting of sort of the ethics of real estate. I think it's important to have this conversation because when you're someone who may consume the services of a real estate agent, I think it's important to understand that these are some of the realities. But as a real estate professional, I think all of us need to think more about this. This is another example of deception being baked into what we do. And it's a disturbing thing. It's an assumption. It's casual. It's part of the gears. It's the default. And literally, when I say default, I don't mean that each and every realtor goes out and starts writing deceptive things. I mean that the standard template that everyone is given tends to be laced with this casual deception. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. It's one of those things that turns me off about this business. And it's just so prevalent. And, I would love to call out, let me set the stage a little bit here. So I get wonderful feedback from folks who listen to the show. Every once in a while, I'll get another agent who's upset and says that I'm making a big deal out of something that it shouldn't be a big deal, particularly as it relates to this kind of thing. And I'll tell you, after doing this now for since 1988, I am convinced that this. And here's the other thing: this stuff will all work. You can do things the way I hate and make money. I know tons of agents who do. It works. But the question is it okay? Is the idea of being comfortable with deception in how you're out there doing business okay? And my answer is no, I'm not. I don't think it is acceptable. And there are tons of ways for you to deal with marketing. And for me, for the vast majority of my career, it's been referral business. It's been folks who I've worked with, which has then, gotten other people who they've talked to call me. So I've been able to maintain a pretty robust business off of referrals. Now, there was a period of time where I spent an awful lot of time marketing myself, spent a lot of time on, back then, the thing that made sense was direct mail. This would be the mid 90s, early 90s, and did a lot of stuff, spent a lot of money on advertising. I also spent an awful lot of money on advertising with Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and all those online folks, probably about starting in 2008, 2009, which I did for about 3 or 4 years. But none of it was feeding into an automated system. And so I'm kind of embracing that again. I'm broadening my marketing budget, and I'm feeding really all of those contacts into a central piece of software, content management software or contact management software that will then automatically respond, right? It alerts me, it automatically responds with some messages. And the thing I found interesting was the templates. The default, and here's the other thing: 9 out of 10 real estate agents are ridiculously lazy. They won't go in and change the defaults. If a system comes and it already has pre-built emails or texts or whatever that are going to get sent out to clients who reach out to you, the odds are they're not going to change that. They're going to leave it the way it is and just let that be a drip. They call it a drip campaign, right? Which means that if you send an email or a text or you submit your contact information via an online form or whatever, it will probably, for a lot of agents, feed into a thing that will automatically respond. Great. I have no problem with any of that. I don't have a problem with the mechanics or the gears of the thing. What bothers me is the attempt it makes to make it appear that something is true that is not true. And we can talk about that a little bit here in a minute. And I'll go through some examples. I'll read over. And again, I'm not going to mention the specific company I'm working with here, because the truth is the same thing is true of all of them. They all do the same thing. And it's really just an example of embracing this goofy idea. And let's talk a little bit about other things, right? It's not just that. Another casual deception, right? When there are tons of services out there. Let's say you're a real estate agent who's trying to generate buzz by providing content. It's one thing if you subscribe to a publishing service that on a regular basis publishes real estate related information or data, whatever. Like, for instance, I have folks that through me subscribe to market data that gets published by Zillow. But I don't deceive anyone by making them think that's data I've compiled. It's very clearly marked as Zillow data and all that other kind of wonderful stuff. However, there are services out there that will write articles on real estate, provide data on real estate, and put the real estate agents name on it as if they compiled it or as if they wrote it. And that's always annoyed me. And that's been true for years and years. That's been true since the early 2000s. Back in the day when I first started my website, and I started my website probably almost 20 years ago, I would write my own articles. I would do an article a week. And in 2007, when I really started doing the podcast in January, for about 6 months before that, I was writing articles every week for my website, but I wrote them. I would compile them. I'd get the data. And I noticed that had a really huge effect on traffic just because it was original content. It wasn't duplicated. But even today, real estate agents can subscribe to these things where it makes it look like they're writing this content. And what's interesting is sometimes you can go in and copy just the first paragraph of a real estate article on a real estate agent's website where they claim to be the author of the content. But if you go and you'll search, you'll find the content is the same on hundreds of different real estate agents' websites. Why? Because they all subscribe to the same service that provides this content. Because of course, they aren't writing a different article for every single agent. They're just writing maybe some small handful of articles for hundreds of different agents to share each week. That's a casual deception, right? And take that by itself, and you can make the argument, well, that's not a big deal, Robert. These are folks who are subscribing to a service that are providing real estate articles or news items relating to real estate that have relevance for folks who want to subscribe to a real estate newsletter or read a real estate agent's website. And that may all be true, but not when you put the agent's name on it, implying that they wrote it. And it simply is one more brick in that wall that breaks down a resistance to deception in general. And in general, we usually get a little funky feeling in the back of our heads when we say things we know aren't completely true. This just breaks all of that down. Now, here's another really good example. There was, and this may not even be happening anymore because this is something I came across probably 5 years ago, but there was a real estate agent's website where this person had sort of listed off all of the reviews that they had gotten from clients. And it seemed odd because sometimes there would sometimes be a photo avatar associated with the feedback, and it looked very generic. It looked like a staged photo. It looked like one of those ones you'd get off of any of those free photo sites or ones you'd pay for. And when I would copy the text of the referral, I would discover, sure enough, it was the exact same. And the feedback was generic enough, or the praise was generic enough. I'd copy that, paste it into Google, and discover the exact same quote was available on hundreds of different real estate agents' websites. And then I did a little more research and discovered that there were some actual real estate companies that specifically host real estate websites where they would provide this generic praise for those who had websites with them. So it's also casual and in there. And I don't know how people are explaining this to themselves. I don't know if they're thinking, well, you know what, it's okay because in the end, I'm really going to give really good service. I don't know if it becomes an ends justify the means kind of thing. But I think as soon as you wear down your resistance to that casual deception, you start building up a standard of doing things that ends up not being good. It ends up not being good for your clients. It may end up making you more money. Again, I'm not saying this stuff doesn't work. I know plenty of agents who do this kind of stuff and they're financially successful, but they aren't very good agents. The ones who do tend to embrace the deception, I find, aren't very good at what they do. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take a break here in a second, but when we come back, we're going to go down a list of the messages that get automatically generated by this system. And these are the templates. These are the defaults that if I turned it on and just said, start sending these to everyone who reaches out to me through my landing pages or through my forms that I might have linked to Facebook or whatever, this is the response they'll get. And it gives this impression. It tries to imply that I'm responding live and having a conversation with them when in reality, it's an automated system. Now, before we do that, I wanted to hit a few interesting numbers. This is one that comes from Risk Media, and we have hit a 10-year high profit for sellers. And that may be feeding some of this increased interest in folks wanting to sell their homes. I know it's absolutely feeding what I want to do. For those of you who've been listening for a little while, you know that my schedule includes me selling my home in 2018. According to the article, at the close of 2017, the average home seller gained $54,000, or a 29.7% return on investment in the transaction, according to ATTOM Data Solutions' recently released year-end and fourth quarter 2017 U.S. home sales report. Contradictory, however, is their length of stay, 8.18 years, the longest since 2000. So remember, on average, if you're a real estate person, you know this number, right? 3 to 5 years was the typical average in terms of how long folks would stay in their home. Quote, it's the most profitable time to sell a home in more than 10 years, yet homeowners are staying put longer than we've ever seen, says Darren Bloomquist, vice president at ATTOM Data. The best rates of return, and this is an interesting one because we always like to know where we're seeing the greatest rate of return on home ownership, right? If you're someone who has a buy and hold strategy, but always is assessing whether or not it's time to sell, maybe you've been doing a buy, rent, and now you're looking for that proper sell window. Maybe this is that window. Let's talk about some of the areas. The best rates of return are clustered on the West Coast, the report reveals. The San Jose, California market has the highest return. Holy free holies. That's just crazy. The San Jose, California market has the highest return at 90.9%. And San Jose is my area. San Jose is the city directly to the north of me. We're a bedroom community for San Jose here. Followed by San Francisco, California at 73.7%. Merced, California at 64.6%. Seattle, Washington at 64.4%. And Santa Cruz, California at 59.8%. That is nuts. It sure does also feel like a fully inflated balloon to me, but there you go. Appreciation generally improves the potential for profit. Annual appreciation has been highest in Ocala, Florida, 14.3%, Kansas City, Missouri, 13.4%, San Jose, California at 13.3%, Salem, Oregon at 12.9%, and Nashville, Tennessee, 12.5%, the report shows. Additional areas are considerably growing as well. Las Vegas, 12.3%, Salt Lake City, Utah, 10.9%, Seattle, 10.8%, and Orlando and Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida, both 10.7%. So those are interesting areas that have seen an awful lot of growth. It may be a good time for you to consider, if you've got properties in those areas and you've been renting them out, may indicate an interesting opportunity for you to liquidate now. All right, as I said, we're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of those built-in, baked into the system, casual deceptions of real estate, just because this was something I was setting up last week, and it shocked me a little bit. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. It's sort of, I don't know what chapter this would be. Would this be chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 10? I guess it depends on which example you want to focus on. We've talked about so many different casual lies. For those of you who are relatively new to the show, you might want to search back. Go to therebelbroker.com and do a search for old shows. Just search on the word lies, and I'm sure you'll find it. I think I did one about a month ago, maybe 2, where we talked about direct mail pieces that I sort of dissected and made. It was very obvious that it was absolutely packed with lies. A year ago, we talked about my experience doing a Make Me Move entry on Zillow for my home, and I think the tally ended up being, after 26 contacts from real estate agents, 25 of them were all liars, and one of them just straight up said, "Hey, I'm a real estate agent. If you're interested in selling your home, I'd love to be considered as an option for you." So I've kept her contact info, and if I ever get anybody interested in buying or selling in Santa Cruz County, I will be giving her a call because she was honest. The other 25, not so much. Every one of them turned out to be lying when it came to them telling me they have a buyer interested in buying my house specifically, or if they told me they were an investor specifically looking to purchase my home themselves for investment purposes. They were lying. Every one of them was using it as an opportunity to get access to me so that they could ask for a listing. So now we continue on with the next phase, and it's the habitualness of the lie. And again, I'm not going to share the company I'm getting this from, but I just started subscribing to it. It looked like a great way to centrally handle my contacts efficiently, reach out to them quickly. Because the bottom line is, as a real estate agent, you have to walk this line. You need to respond quickly, and you need to repeatedly reach out. Now, I typically in my marketing, I was a 3 strikes guy, right? If you reached out to me and asked me anything, whatever, for whatever reason you contacted me, I would reply. And I might, if you gave me a phone number, I might call and leave a message. And if you didn't answer the phone, I'd leave a message. And if you gave me an email address, I would email you. And I would consider those two. I usually do those in the same day, and they'd be one contact. A day later, I would email you again and possibly call you, but more than likely just email you, particularly if the way you contacted me was via email. If you left a voicemail or you called me directly, I usually would reply using the same means, because that usually communicates to me what you're more comfortable with, right? Now, once I get past 3 contacts trying to reach out to you, if you haven't reached out to me at all, if you haven't reached back at all, I usually consider that a good sign that you're not interested in continuing a professional relationship with me. And that's fine. But then if you look at the statistics, there's so many, and you have to kind of just take the stats for what they are, but they say that's not the way to do it. They say the way you need to do it is to have at least 15, or at least the number tends to vary. I know it ranges from something like a dozen to 20 something, but some big number of times that you reach out. So here's a template, and here it is. I'm going to go ahead and look at I want to look at one that I haven't fooled with and just read it to you. And this is basically emails that go out, and it does a grand total of, I'm not going to read all these to you. It does a grand total of 54 emails. And you can set them out to go out at whatever frequency. We can look and see what frequency this does, because it gets assigned to an auto drip campaign. Now, some of these are great. Some of these are just informational, right? So here's the first one. And it's tips for selling your home. Here's an easy tip to sell your home faster. Here's a quick tip you can use to sell your home. And so these are all ones I'm okay with. But then if you go into the drip thing and you look at what they do in terms of steps they take, they are kind of misleading. So the very first one is an email. Let's see. So here's a good one. Here's a generic new leads campaign, and this is the drip thing that they do. And the way this one is set up, it can send texts and emails depending on what information it gets. If you provide a phone number for the contact, it'll do a text, but it'll also do emails. And it starts off with things like immediately it will text, "Hi," and then insert the first name. "I got your request. When would be a good time to talk? You should also receive an email with more info." Then 2 minutes later, "Hi, I received your request." The next day, "Hi, did you get my message?" Next, an email. Are you available for a quick chat? Text, "trying to reach you." It gives these impressions, and it goes on. There's ones here where it casually implies that these are things you're actively doing from where you're sitting. Now, I've gone through and edited these so that they're not So that in my mind, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but these are all designed to convey the impression that you are actively sitting there on the other side, communicating with these folks, trying to directly communicate. And you are trying to directly communicate, but you're implying that you're directly communicating right now through this system. And I suppose the thing that really rubs me the wrong way is it tries to portray these as a very human response where it's actually an automated response, right? That's the impression you're trying to get. And I don't think people are that dumb, frankly. So I think you're killing yourself in a variety of ways. If you're on the receiving end of this, I think most folks are savvy enough to get they're dealing with an automated response system, particularly when they get a response immediately. I mean, you click the send button and 40 seconds later, something arrives in your inbox or via text. You know that person is probably not doing that in a real-time fashion, but the message is being phrased in a way to imply that it is. So why make the lie? Why make the implication? Why not embrace the fact that you have an automated system that's reaching out to folks to try to get them more information and leverage it from that basis? What's interesting is there's actually folks out there who are more focused on marketing than they are on real estate who also chime in on this stuff. And here's one from Real Estate Marketing Dude. Automation doesn't convert leads. Human interaction does. Start putting the focus of your follow-up on relationship building and leads will start converting. Quit acting like you're in sales and start acting like you're in service. Now, I find that to be a very interesting statement. It fits in a little bit with what I believe, and that is focus, but understand what your service is. Your service is to have a fiduciary responsibility with your client where you're watching out for their best interests and helping navigate a relatively involved process that can have huge impact on their life if it's not done correctly. So I kind of like that. And I agree that the moment you can make personal contact, you should make personal contact. But don't try to make the automated system stand in for that. Don't try to make the automated system imply that you're making a personal effort at that moment, right? I mean, and we've all gotten them. I think you are killing yourself in that you're feeding the casual deception lie for yourself, but you're also feeling like that slimy guy from your client's perspective, because a lot of them are going to clue in and get that this isn't you really responding, it's your automated system. Now, this particular article actually goes on to say a few things that I think actually make a lot of sense. And I say this not just because I want you realtors out there to stop being pinheads. I also say it because I want you as buyers, sellers, and investors to expect better from these folks. And I get it. The only way I can convince folks that I'm their best option as a real estate professional is to get in front of them when they're looking for someone to fill that need for them. I am completely comfortable with being stacked up against as many other agents as they want to interview for whatever the process is. And I'm also perfectly comfortable with them picking someone else if that's how it comes down. Now, the vast majority of the time, I find I tend to win. I feel like I put together a good proposition in terms of value. So, and I go at it, I think, from a different angle than an awful lot of other agents. So I'm comfortable with that. But let's go ahead and hit just some of the basics here before we say goodbye for today. Number one, speed to the lead. This is no surprise. We know that the faster you respond back to any inquiry, the better chance you have to converting the lead. However, the key to converting the lead is building a relationship first, then looking to see if you are a good prospect or not. Following up ASAP is the key. Now, I agree, and this also fights the trend that I hate so much. Agents who come to you and say, yeah, I closed over 300 escrows last year, didn't close anything. What those agents did last year was got 300 people to sign listing agreements, then let their team handle the rest of it. There was no real personal connection going on there. There was no real personal attention going on there. And the bottom line is that person did not earn their money. If the whole presumption is that you're hiring that specific agent to negotiate on your behalf, to watch out for your interests, the idea that they can deal with a different person every single day, have escrows going across 1 year and having 360 of them going on, and that you're getting any kind of personal attention is an absolute lie. It doesn't happen. There aren't enough hours in the day. 2, determining your channel of communication. What do you think is more effective, an email, autoresponder, boilerplate message, or a text message? Some of the top agents dominated lead sources like Zillow, Realtor.com, and ZBuyer are personalizing their follow-up using text messaging and video email. So, yeah, I don't determine the channel of communication. My policy is to be effective in whatever channel the client prefers. I have 2 clients right now that are folks that are more retirement age, and they have one email address that they both use. They rarely check their email. They don't use texts. That's not for them. They need to communicate over the phone. I'm finding myself dealing with someone who I couldn't get walk through the online signature process. So we're doing it old school, baby. We are faxing. We are FedExing. We are doing the old ink and paper thing. It's a blast from the past for me, but that's what this client needs. That's how this client feels most comfortable. So you need to be most comfortable with it. Next, why? It's way more personable and feels more natural to the prospect. People don't want to be on the receiving end of an autoresponder. I think that's absolutely true. Next, 3, personalization. Did you ever hear the phrase, it's not what you say, it's how you say it? It's absolutely true. If you want to start converting more incoming leads, you need to humanize your brand. You want to let people know you are not a blood-sucking, commission-based salesperson as fast as possible. Now, they go on to talk a little bit more about this, but I actually totally agree with that. And I think that the whole autoresponder thing that tries to emulate real human communication simply cements the perception of you being a blood-sucking moron when it comes right down to clients guessing what kind of a person you are. Let's see, what else? That's really kind of it. It's more important to be personable versus professional. When I follow up, I am a dude. If I were following up by phone, my initial line is, hi, this is the dude, the Chicago real estate dude. It's almost always followed up by a laugh by whoever is speaking or whoever they're speaking to. I use my friendly brand to take away the sales aspect and focus on connecting on a human level. I don't see that working either. That would actually, depending on how he does it, I guess that would feel like kind of a sleazy sales thing too. And a lot like the used car guy who comes up and uses very familiar terminology with you right off the bat to develop rapport, and you walk away feeling a little dirty. It's that kind of thing. Now, again, it has been pointed out that I may be hypersensitive to this stuff and it bothers me too much and I'm overthinking it. And I'm willing to embrace that. But I think if you ask yourself how honest is what I'm putting in place right now? How honest is this communication to my client? Is it attempting to emulate something that it isn't really? Am I trying to give an impression that isn't true based on this communication? And if it is at all, don't do it. Never get caught out. Never say you've got a buyer when you don't have one. Never have an autoresponder act as if you just casually whipped out that text a few minutes ago. Just provide value, provide openings for them to continue the dialogue without being a jerk. That's going to be a lot to ask for some of you. But also, don't let default settings in all of these different real estate tools define you as the scumbag real estate agent, because from what I'm seeing, and I've signed up for an awful lot of these different things over the years, trying different ones out, taking them for test drives, figuring out what I'm going to use for my company. I've used at least a dozen. All of them, off the bat, baseline default assumption, do this thing with autoresponding and drips that tries to imply this is a message coming from a real human being right now. Stop doing that. It just makes you look bad. It makes us all look stupid. So don't do it. Okay, and you as a consumer, as a buyer or seller, look for the agent who's going to reach out personally quickly. You know what? The reality is, you shouldn't consider it a negative that an autoresponder has immediately reached out, because A, it informs you they got your message. Whatever system they use to track communications with their clients, you've made it. You know that they've made contact with you. The initial message may ask for more details. That's what mine does. Mine just thanks them from reaching out via whatever method they used, whether it was clicking on something in Facebook or clicking an ad in whatever website I happen to be doing an ad on, or however it got to me. It thanks them from doing that and asks, what are your goals in real estate and how can I help you reach them? And then if I get a response from that, I actually compile data, reach out, and communicate with them the data that feeds their needs. Be a value add. Whatever you're doing, whatever communication you're sharing with clients, and whatever communication you're receiving from your real estate professional, expect it to have value. It shouldn't just be crap spewing out of the internet at you with no value to you. So it should have some informational value. It should have some reference value, whatever. But there should be an offering of value in some way. Hopefully, as this show is an offering of value. That's about it. It was definitely more of a philosophical sit back and think about things day today. I hope it's resonated with some real estate agents out there and maybe make you reconsider how you do business. For those of you who are saying, hey, you know what, Rebel? Screw you. I'm doing all this stuff that's automated and it's making me tons of money. Great. Fantastic. No question in my mind that this stuff can work. It's really just it's not a question of whether or not it works. It's a question of if you're doing it in a way that doesn't make you look like a scumbag. And that's cool if you're willing to look like a scumbag, because you know what? Being a scumbag also, sadly, historically, as I've noticed, can tend to work. So here's what I'm going to say to buyers. Don't feed the beast. Wolf. The life is, which wolf do you feed? Don't feed the one that is a scumbag and assumes you're an idiot and feeds you automated stuff as if it's real stuff. Make purchasing selections. In other words, pick agents based on the traits you want to see in all agents, because the sad part is too many agents that don't deserve your time are getting it because they've got so much of this stuff running. All right, folks, thanks again for listening. I hope it's been valuable. The goal is always to leave more value on the table in terms of knowledge shared or ideas discussed than the time you spent to listen to the show. Hope we lived up to that today. I'll talk to y'all next time.